If you were to try introduce anyone to climbing, at some point they will ask what the hardest climb in the world is, and you'll explain there is numerous V17 graded boulders. Just gonna pretend that Elias hasn't climbed a V18. I fully respect the proposed grade, but I'm just going to pretend that that hasn't happened yet. But you'll explain that there is nuance in difficulty. The fact that they're different styles, they're different rocks, they suit people different. It's hard to compare them and say the hardest one. But in the end, you will say Burden of Dreams. It's the first V17, probably the most famous boulder, and it has a certain mystique around it as well. Climbed by an elite climber who has now disappeared from social media. And also, it's climbed in the middle of nowhere in Lapnorth, Finland. There's something magical about the boulder. But in the current day, we have people trying to flash Burden of Dreams. We have groups of people sieging the boulder after topping a perfect 3D printed replica multiple times before even going out to Finland. We even see replicas of Burden of Dreams in your local gym. It has almost lost the original mystique that it had when it was first ascended. And with a new V18 being proposed, it no longer has the title of the hardest boulder problem in the world. So let's see how we got to this point. Let's look over the entire history of Burden of Dreams. Starting with its discovery. In 2013, a group of Finnish climbers were searching for new potential gems in Lapnorth, Finland, and they find a granite boulder standing at about 3 to 4 meters tall with a completely blank face, perfectly at a 45-degree angle, and when they scrub off the moss and clear it up, there is only a couple razor-sharp holds to create a path up from the bottom of the boulder to the top. Very quickly, Marco Savenian and his crew realized that this boulder was too hard for them. They wouldn't be able to tell if this boulder was possible. When you're looking at climbs at the max difficulty, there is a thin distinction between what is the hardest boulder problem in the world and what is just simply impossible. But they take the boulder to a friend, the strongest guy they could contact, Anton Johansson, to come have a look at the boulder. And on first glance, he did remark that it looks good, but it also looks like 9A. At the time 9A hadn't been climbed, there were a couple 8C pluses in the world. It wasn't a grade that had been fully understood and delved into yet. There were a handful of climbers who had climbed 8C plus. But considering the boulder looks like 9A, you would message one of the 8C plus climbers in the world. And fortunately, there was a extremely strong Finnish climber called Nalle Hukkataival.
Nalle Hukkataival.
Nalle Hukkataival. I think, sorry if it's wrong, I'm going to refer to him as Nalle. So they show Nalle this boulder problem. He at the time had climbed 2 8C pluses, Living Large 8C plus and Gioia, maybe Gioia? I'm not doing very good here. But he's climbed 2 8C plus boulder problems. But upon being shown Burden of Dreams at the time the Lapnorth project, he decided that this would be the next chapter in his climbing. It would allow him to step up a level and possibly take climbing to the next level. But I don't think he realised how long of a journey it would actually be. Now, he was shown this in 2013, as I mentioned. And then over the next 3 years, we have over 40 Instagram posts of him documenting his experience on what was known as the Lapnorth project, where he detailed how long and hard this process was, taking over a year just to dial in the moves individually, often considered the crux. Even when he could do the other moves consistently, the first move still took 1 in 20 tries, which on razor sharp holds, where you don't get many goes, is quite punishing. Fast forward another year of projecting this boulder and he starts to have the moves dialed in. He can repeat the moves all individually in one session and it's time for him to start linking the boulder. Near the end of 2023, a group of the strongest climbers in the world actually joined Nalle, the first time there was a collaborative effort on Burden of Dreams. Now, they were invited up in Finland due to an invitational competition. Daniel Woods, probably the strongest climber in the world at the time, who had climbed multiple 8C pluses, as well as Dave Graham. Dave Graham, another extremely elite, strong climber from America. And finally, Jimmy Webb, that if anyone's a new gen climber like me and wasn't around to see when he was at the very top of climbing, you will know his name from the kilter board and how punishing his set climbs are. JWEBXL, you are a nightmare to me. But these three extremely strong climbers joined Nale just when he had started to attempt the boulder from the bottom, when he had it in 2 links. Now, Daniel Woods did mention recently in the comment section of a podcast that Jimmy Webb actually found new beta for Nale, and I'm not sure how important this beta is and was to the process, but a couple weeks later, after they had left, on the 24th of October 2016, after over 4,000 attempts and 3 years, Nale found himself at the top of the boulder finally, establishing the boulder as Burden of Dreams V17, the world's first 9A. Now, after establishing the boulder, it went quiet. Over the next couple years, it's hard to find much about people trying the boulder. After Burden of Dreams and for the next 4 years or so, people were more focused on establishing new climbs. Instead of people repeating Burden of Dreams, we saw other 9As appear. We see people like Sean Rabbitoe first ascending Alphane and getting repeats from Aidan Roberts and Will Bosey. We see Return of the Sleepwalker get put up by Daniel Woods in America, another 9A. Until about 2021, we start to have more attention at the boulder. The 9A climbers mentioned previously, Sean Rabbitoe and Aidan Roberts specifically, were projecting Burden of Dreams, aiming to climb it. You can actually see a part of Sean Rabbitoe's process, including his flash attempt of Burden on his YouTube channel in a video series. I highly recommend it. But it was in this process of working the boulder that Aidan Roberts took the specificity to another level. In a collaboration with Core Climbing, he actually 3D scanned and printed a perfect replica in his home shed that he could train on. The reason Burden of Dreams may have not seen as much traffic is there's more difficulty to the boulder than just the climbing difficulty. It has razor sharp holes. You can't have many goes in a session before your skin is in tatters. Its window of good conditions is extremely small in Lapnor, Finland, often covered by snow in winter and too hot in the summer to really pull on. And as well, the remoteness of its location makes it hard to get to. You don't really want to go there and project it when you don't really know what to expect. It is the hardest boulder in the world. And whilst Aidan Roberts and Sean Rabbitoe in the end didn't climb the boulder, Aidan Roberts notably apparently getting to the final move of the boulder and dropping it over 10 times. It was Aidan Roberts' new training and his board replica that inspired a certain Scottish crusher named Will Bosey, who had climbed Alphane, another 9A at the time, and many 8C pluses. Now, he first came across the replica in the Lattice training headquarters in Chesterfield. After getting inspired by the boulder, he started putting in sessions on the replica, actually using a pulley system to reduce weight whilst trying the boulder. And after 10 sessions on the replica, he decided to make a trip to Lapnor, Finland and attempt to become the second person to climb the boulder. Finding good conditions, he actually did live stream some of his first sessions on the boulder, and they're still up on his channel. But eventually he dug deep, and on his 14th session, he climbed Burden of Dreams in a spectacular fashion, cementing himself as the second person to climb Burden of Dreams 7 years after Nale's first ascent. This probably marks a turning point in Burden of Dreams' history. Remember, it was 7 years between Nale's first ascent and Will Bosey's second ascent, but only a couple months later, Simon Lorenzi claimed the third ascent in December 2023. At the time of recording this, Simon Lorenzi actually teasing a new movie on the Burden of Dreams, a deep look into how he climbed the boulder in the depths of the winter in Lapnor, coming out on the 27th of December. It might already be out. Depending on how long it takes me to edit and upload this video, it might be out. If it is, I'm sure it's brilliant. Check it out. But then following this, only 3 months later, the previously mentioned new V18 proposed climber, Elias Inyema, an Italian crusher, claimed the 4th ascent of Burden of Dreams in March 2024. So from a 7-year gap to 3 ascents in the span of half a year. And I think a part of this is obviously with perfect 3D board replicas being accessible, you can try the boulder before going into the remoteness of Finland. Now, we didn't see an ascent for a little bit longer, but by May 2025, probably at the time a lesser known climber compared to the likes of climbers like Will Bosey, Song Soo Lee from South Korea topped the boulder, but controversially on his Instagram uploading a video where from multiple angles you can see his baggy t-shirt. Unfortunately, my camera died and I didn't get around to re-recording this final part until a day later. So new shirt, beard is a little longer, hair's a little fluffier. Let's continue. So where I left off, Sung-Soo Lee uploaded on Instagram footage of his first send of Burden of Dreams, and in the footage you see his baggy t-shirt hit the mats as he drops low after pulling on to gain momentum for the first move. His t-shirt dabs and compresses on the mats. Now typically when climbing, if any part of our body clips the mat or floor, we consider it a dab and the go is pretty much void. It is a personal choice at the end of the day, it's an arbitrary rule, but Sung-Soo Lee uploaded the video and asked Instagram. His opinion in the description was that he was uncertain. He didn't really know and he needed feedback. Now most of the Instagram comments actually didn't think it was a dab. People thought that a dab for a t-shirt was ridiculous, and even if it did count as a dab, technically he was just restarting the boulder and pulling on from the ground. But there wasn't even a lot of time for this discourse to develop, because only 2 days later Sung-Soo Lee uploaded a second video, this time with no shirt on and him doing Burden of Dreams for the second time, confirming an uncontroversial pure send of Burden of Dreams, probably being the only person that will ever send Burden of Dreams twice in 2 days, if we count the first send, which realistically we should. Now since Sung-Soo Lee's send of Burden of Dreams, we haven't had anything else. We have heard rumours of a lot of different athletes trying it. More competition based climbers have been trying it. Rumours of Janja Garnbret, the greatest competition climber of all time, going out to Burden of Dreams and testing the holds, deciding if it will become a future project or not. But as I mentioned at the start, a new V18 has been proposed by Elias Nyema called Exodia, and the focus on Burden of Dreams being the final climb in the roadmap might no longer be the focus now that Exodia is in the picture. However, of course, Burden of Dreams will be forever a part of climbing, being the first V17, or more importantly in the font grading system, it's the first of the 9th graded boulders. But it's also changed climbing training forever. The specificity of the board replicas started by Aidan Roberts, 3D scanning the holds, I'm sure we will see for plenty of boulders that have a consistent angle and therefore can be great board replicas in the future. But it's also started lots of questions. Say if you practice on the board replica at home and do it, let's say 100 times, if you then go out to Lapinor, Finland and climb Burden of Dreams on your first try, does it really count as a flash? Because you have pulled on to 3D scanned holds, you've tested out the body positions. I might talk about this in a future video because I think there's a lot more to unpack than just a short, simple answer. But either way, this boulder has caused a lot more conversation than other V17 boulders. It is really important, which is why I felt it was important to document a bit of the history of Burden of Dreams. I hope you enjoyed my brief but entire history of Burden of Dreams as of December the 26th, 2025. Hopefully we will still see traffic at this boulder. It is remarkable. The moves are extremely cool and it's been really inspiring to see different athletes come up with different beta for what at the start felt like a boulder that had one route up it, one style, the way Nale climbed it. But now we're seeing the Japanese climbers showing a great example that they cut loose at some point on the boulder, switching their feet from the right side of their body to the left side to set themselves up for a paddle dyno at the end. But if you enjoyed this historical look on Burden of Dreams and this style of videos, I'll be making lots more in the future hopefully. So please leave a like, subscribe for more, and drop a comment on any future climbs that you want me to talk about. But thank you very much for tuning in, and if you stayed for the whole video, thank you very much. It means a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.